That's me. If anybody following this, I am a huge Daily Colbert Show fan. Or Stephen Colbert's Super PAC. Oh, that is so fun.
It's pretty good. I haven't seen it.
It is wonderful. They are milking it for everything this one. It doesn't matter which side of the political fence you're on, what they're talking about is super PACs generally. Democratic, Republicans,
We're gonna get started at 12, 17, 15. Thank you all for coming again. Thank you all for participating over this 3-day strategic planning process. It seems like it's been longer than 3 days when we sat through general government on Tuesday morning. It seemed like Monday. We put up all the sheets from the work that everybody's done over these past 3 days. Today, John Amrine will facilitate us through the end of the process, which we'll get down to prioritizing what our issues are and what we're going to be working on over the next year or so, making improvements and what we need to do. Just to recap, we did all the functional teams: general government, public safety, human services and community services, and the Board of Commissioners. And for me, it was very enjoyable, and I learned every day. I learned more about county government, and again, I learned more things these last few days, and I appreciate the time that you all took, because I know that your schedules are very busy, but I do believe this is a really important process that we need to continue, and I think the 2-year schedule works, so we're going to continue to do this. But as we move forward, I would ask that you all keep in mind that the work isn't done here. We will form committees on the issues that we prioritize, and we'll start moving forward. And then one other thing I just wanted to add that I failed to mention in the meetings with the other teams. I said it today because as I was reviewing the strategic plan from last in 2010, one of the other things we did that I didn't mention was the mission statement. There was a mission statement committee, and I have the mission statement on the back of my business card. Some of you do, you have a choice to do that. But we did create a mission statement, and we revised it. And so if that was something that came up, and I think it was in regards to leadership. And yesterday there was a group talking about vision and mission, and I remembered that, and I apologize for not remembering that. But so thank you again for all for coming. There's plenty of food over there. Get more food while you're talking. This is very informal. John's going to take over, and if you have any questions or need anything, just let me know. Thanks. John?
Good afternoon. Welcome back. I want to start, I think, with Dick on the wall over on this side. Those 3 subjects came up a lot in the last couple of days. And it was predominantly positive kinds of comments. We're excited about the IT work that's been ongoing for the last couple of years, and we know there's work yet to be done to finish that. We're excited about purchasing improvements. We know there's more work to do there. We're excited about the HR improvements and where that may go, and we know there's more work to do there. So just to point out, as we start out, the success of your efforts of the last couple of years, but also to temper your expectations a little bit. We've got some work to do yet there, so we want to be careful as we're taking on new things. The sheets you're all pretty much familiar with. Those that say team across the top were the efforts that the individual teams talked about that they would be doing within the teams, and every one of the teams has some items there that they've decided they're going to. Some of it's continuation stuff, things that you've been working on for a long time. Some of it's fairly new. And so there are some of those kinds of efforts also ongoing. And we'll talk about those in a little more in just a minute. These are the items that came out of the countywide sheets. And I did just a little combining where some things really fit together. The numbers you see here are items that came out of more than one group. And that's just simply the number of groups that talked about that particular item. I don't think we want to put a lot of importance on that, because I think it's very possible that some of these others that, you know, maybe only got discussed in one group, when we have a little discussion here this afternoon, we actually find that those resonate with a whole lot more people, and there may be some important ones there also. At this point, we're going to take a couple of minutes, and I really mean a couple of minutes. We've got to stay brief. We'll ask each team if there's a couple of folks that just want to comment a little bit on some of those team activities that you talked about and that you plan to carry forward. Then we'll move into some discussion of these items. And there again, we'll start with those that were identified by multiple teams, but we're going to have to move through those fairly rapidly to get through them all. At that point, we'll do a little exercise to determine priorities, which are the most important. We'll talk about how many you really want to tackle at that point, and then determine some. We won't go too far into next steps. I think the process that we used a couple of years ago was then the administrator and the board put together some committees to get started on the process. We're using a similar process this year. So let's go to the first general government team that worked on Tuesday morning. Are there some particular items from your team-oriented discussion that you want to share with the rest of the group?
I found it interesting that in the general government, all of the people, the IT, the equalization, the treasurer, register of deeds, and human resources, and the county clerk, vitals, and elections, we had one issue communications. And not only externally, but internally. And it was interesting because all of those departments are removed from the county building. And I think that sometimes is something we lose sight of about these major groups in that general area of general government, that we're not over there, and that we've got to keep communication going and flowing and being informed.
Anybody else from that group? Let's move on then to the county commissioners who met on Tuesday afternoon. Particular highlights of the things you talked about doing as a board. Go ahead.
I think it's already been mentioned in a lot of areas, but communication is an essential part of everything, and that's internal, external, internal. The better we understand each other, the better we can work together.
You know, 9 years ago, we had a strategic planning session. I remember it was at the holiday, and there's been a number of subsequent strategic planning sessions that had the same, followed similar format. And on each of those, the juvenile detention center, the jail, were always near the top of the list. When the heck's it going to get off the list? And there's only one way to get it. But my point is, and I was looking at that, been there for my tenure, and it's about time we get a plan and budget the plan instead of planning the budget.
Let's move on to public safety. Particular items from the public safety group that you want to share, especially on the things that you're going to work on as a team that didn't come to this county-wide list.
Well, we all agree we're probably the top team in the room, so. Little icebreaker. The jail was a big part of the discussion, not just coming from me, but for the rest of the team. We talked a lot about communication and the IT upgrades in particular. One thing that's going to directly affect all of us within public safety and probably several departments and stuff on the perimeter, is our electronic content management initiative that's moving forward. Right, Kathy? You're part of that? Pat?
Yeah, it's moving forward.
Help me out here.
Yeah, it is.
It is moving forward, and we think
It's moving forward
gonna pay great
and
dividends.
will be every bit as big and as far-reaching as you indicate.
And we also spent a lot of time talking about educating the community. What else can we do to educate the community about county government and what it is, you know, we really do, what we're supposed to do, and what the expectations of us are, and then in the changing role of county government in particular, because that's what we're all involved in, and how do we get that message out? What can we do to that effect? Where's my notes? I don't even know. Jail,
It
obviously.
says public
Here's
safety
public
on the
safety
top,
back here, too.
right here, just to the right of the light. is one.
Countywide one.
Yeah, I think that's-
ECM project. There was some discussion about what is kind of creating some backlog within the courts and actually the sheriff's office. The cross PPO issue, which probably means nothing to a lot of you in the room, but it is an issue that affects the public safety group, and we're trying to come up with a potential fix for that. And then just continued collaboration with our local partners in whatever areas we can in terms of consolidation, if that's what it takes, or collaboration and cooperation. You know, the big push for all of that.
Human Services, yesterday afternoon.
Who's in human services?
What, CMH, Brookhaven, Juvenile Transition Center, Family Court. Did I get everyone?
Public
Oh,
health.
I'm sorry, Ken,
Health.
Public Health. I thought I said that.
And your
And MSU Extension.
And,
I thought I said that too.
And who else?
That's it.
I can just run through what we
Yeah,
generally
go ahead.
talked about. We spent some time discussing with the IT changes, looking for some of the departments that might be able to jointly work on projects. Electronic medical record was one that was discussed there. We spent some time talking about the transition center and the transitioning of the transition center, making sure that it the importance of including that as we're talking about the jail, that's a piece of the activity that needs to be looked at. And also some of the other things that we could do with the transition center to do a better job of taking care of the children that are within our own area of responsibility, where a lot of times we've historically sent them out to other communities, and looking at ways to do a better job of doing the interventions right here in our own community and sort of growing that. Let's see what was the other. The communication, marketing, education. Each of the departments has some different kinds of things. If we're talking about Brookhaven, they're marketing and they're in competition to get people to come in. Others of us, like our place, it's working on educating the community, trying to get other kinds of community change that are going on. But somehow looking at where are some of those common areas that we can work together on those different aspects of our jobs. Was that? Go ahead.
We also talked about the need to improve the educational opportunities of the members of the community, especially to improve diversity and leadership in the community. And trying to find, and I think it was Pat's words, affinities that we can use to share more, and the sheriff covered education, and education just is such a, whether it's on specific items that the county provides, or educating the people within the county for our benefit ultimately. And I think that a good point was raised about our role in trying to get business to move here and people who are employed here to live here. And how that all can help to improve Muskegon County for all of us. That was part of our discussions.
Then the last one I see up there is I just barely make it out. It's where we talked about investing in treatment and prevention activities within our community, and how do we redirect more of the resources to treating those problems that we have locally, and ultimately preventing them from occurring in the first place.
That was the one, was the sentence that we created over about a 10-minute period.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Reads a
I'm
little
not sure it
long.
actually ended up with sentence,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of words. Did I capture it down?
You got it.
All right.
And then the community services team that met this morning.
I'll go first. Myself, Bob here, and John. For the wastewater side of it, we all realize the flow is going down, the rates went up. We're trying to offset that, and different ways of offsetting that, helping other communities with their services as far as wastewater stream goes, as far as cleaning lines or maintaining their systems. We want to look into that. The other potential out there is custom harvesting. We have a fleet of combines, sprayers. Once we're done with it, it usually goes back in storage. So maybe we could offer that service to the local community as well. Something we've never done before, but it's a possibility we can take a look at. And then vehicle maintenance, all three of us use a lot of maintenance, and there's other maintenance throughout the county that we could share. We have our own garage system, our own, and that kind of extends also into electricians. There's those part of the electricians, the mechanicals, the plumbers. John has a little bit of that in the department. I do, Bob does. So maybe we can start intertwining that as well. There's some possibilities of savings there that we can look into, additional revenues.
One of the recurring themes that seems to be coming up is communications, of course, and marketing. And I think those are very important things that the community or the county has to disperse out to the community. We have to, I think we should celebrate the successes of the county, and I don't know if enough of that is done. So I think working towards a coordinated marketing plan for the county would help get the word out about the positives that we have to offer here in the county. Another thing we discussed was fleet management and the possibility of starting a pilot program here with perhaps facilities to contract out fleet management so the county wouldn't have to own these vehicles, and we could develop some sort of system for that. And then, of course, we talked about the parks and some of the other services that the county provides, more recreational type services that the county provides, and how to market those in better ways.
Pretty much covered it all between the two of you.
We did talk about recycling too, and ways of increasing recycling countywide and within the county itself, county government itself.
Good. Before we jump into this, I was asked to let you all know, it looks like the soup has arrived. It's back there in the corner if you want some soup at any point in the afternoon. So, let's start out with the one that most of us talked about.
I don't know, I'll let you know.
The item that got talked about in most groups was the jail and the transition center. I'm gonna throw the floor open, talk about why that's important, how that's important, what kind of things we need to accomplish. We'll try to stay to just a few minutes on each of these so we can kind of talk through each of them, and then we'll work on prioritizing.
I think it's important because it's a quality of life issue for this county and our citizens that we're here to serve. I work in the probate court, but it has ripple effects that affect every single person that touches, whether it's to enforce orders or what we can do. And the transition center is, you know, is an opening where we can really change lives. You know, when we have a first touch with that family and that juvenile, you know, so it's always like.
I think we need to get the community to get away from the idea that the jail is a necessary evil and get them to understand that it is a mandated function of county government. And it needs to be an effective, efficient jail. We have to keep an eye on what's going on at the state level, in a lot of arenas, but the continued push to keep people out of the state prison system means there's going to be continued shift of that population to the county level. That directly impacts jail resources, actually multiple county government resources. You know, we have to understand that there's a philosophy out there that the harsher the better. You know, there may be some merit in that in some areas, but we are also guided by federal and state court decisions and statutes of how we run the jail and what we offer at the jail. And you know, Kat is absolutely right. It is a quality of life issue. It is an image issue for the community, I think. You know, we have a somewhat unwarranted reputation out there of having one of the worst jails in the state. Now, again, some people may take pride in that. I'm not really sure I do. We're what I think the 12th largest county population-wise in the state. We're the 13th largest jail, so we're one of the big players in terms of, you know, looking at it in that narrow box. And I think we have to make, like Commissioner said down there, Dara's instrument, I do know your name. I think we have to make that investment. It's going to be a long-term investment. It's going to be a big investment, but it has to be done.
Is the jail seen as a point of entry for rehabilitation or for, you brought up education and
the way it is right now, it's set up to increase recidivism because you cannot effectively provide the kind of intervention.
You can't get in there and do the kind of programming
to do that reduction work. It's just set up to make things.
Because it is a public health issue too.
Well, for instance, this morning we had 35 Department of Corrections prisoners in for pre-court or court action due to a large-scale fight they had at the prison several months ago. Many of them were charged with crimes as a result of that fight. We had 35 DOC prisoners in the jail waiting to get into the courts and get their their court process done, on top of the 27 people I had in the holding facility from outside agencies bringing people in. I mean, it was an absolute nightmare. we finally sent them back out to their vans and said, you have to sit in the vans until we call your name, basically. There just is no space left in that jail to do the processes we need to do. And we've grown, the county's grown over the years. The jail just hasn't kept pace for a lot of reasons. I mean, I can sit here and sound like I'm whining all day long, but I'm not whining. It's just reality. It's just reality. The jail just does not fit the county.
Well, along with it, you got infrastructure that you cannot even fix in there. There's pipes that are rotting out that you cannot fix. There are all sorts of other issues.
We were told that so much water, because it's a continuous flow of water to the pipes. And water, even in its best condition, I guess is abrasive. I'm not an expert, but we were told that the amount of water that goes through that pipe, it just wears them down. It thins them out to the point where they constantly are
And you have to tear it down to fix them.
And a pipe break on the third floor results in a disaster on the second floor, the first floor, in the basement, you know, the stuff rolls downhill, literally. And,
Just, broaden it a little bit, I think what we learned this summer, Dean, is the jail in terms of public safety is a tool.
absolutely.
And it's necessary, needs to be an efficient tool that we can use for public safety. It's not just about throwing people in and putting them away forever. It's a tool that public safety folks can use at their discretion in terms of folks going in and out.
And
I think we need to change the view of the public and look at this as a process of moving forward and improving the county, not as a process of holding people. It goes back to we need to, in some manner, and I let the people of this county know that the world is not coming to an end. We don't need to be in a bunker mentality. We need to find and adapt and work for the future. We need these tools. Apparently, we all are adapting to the electronics. We need to let the general public know this is an investment, just like your home, in your environment that you got to make. And I think changing it from, I think we've all heard the tents out at the wastewater in little pink suits. That's not going to work today. So let's get something that does work. There was some question in the paper a week or so ago about moving the box, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Okay. Another way of moving the box is don't get them in that box first. Put them through this center. Not necessarily everybody has to be sentenced in exactly the same manner. There may be other circumstances. I mean, we need to let people know that that's a problem and a need, and we can fix that. It's not just building a jail. The jail is a tool. It's one part of the system change. And so if you can get the general public to understand that, yeah, we're making this Muskegon a better place, I think that solves a lot of your problems.
I think he's absolutely right, and as a person from the African American community, we have lots of work to do. And the reason why we have lots of work to do is because they haven't been included, they don't know, all they know is that their grandsons and sons and this one and that one are sitting in there. They also are aware of the fact that we have a very aggressive prosecuting attorney and staff that we have funded very well. And in fact, county commissioners from Cass County said to me, we never had any jail overcrowding in Cass County till your trained chief deputy from the prosecutor was set down here, and we named him as our prosecutor. And they said now we just have nothing but, so I think there's lots of issues. I think there's lots of work to be done. I, for one, have always said that I think we can support a jail if everybody's at the table and we start educating and informing, but it goes back to that diversity issue type of thing. And I haven't given up hope on what can be done. I think the churches who certainly visit them in the jails and this and that seriously, I think there's coalitions that can be put together, but it's not going to work with all of us just sitting around the table talking about what needs to be done. We've got a lot of work to do in the community.
Yeah, in the Human Services Subcommittee, we talked a lot about the advancements we've made over the past couple of years between working more closely with courts, CMH, Department of Human Services, and so forth. And we also recognize that we have to come up with the next step. While all of what we're doing is good and on the right track, the Transition Center presents an opportunity if we're able to broaden the work that we do there and move away from sending so many kids outside of our community and do our work here. I think it fits with what Nancy was saying in terms of not breaking families up, doing our work in the community with the families while they're here. So I think there's just that big opportunity, and we're just kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the opportunity to be able to further contribute to some of the gains that the Human Service team has made over the past year.
A couple over here and then
I believe not just the overcrowding is, the building's falling apart. There's no doubt the lifespan of that building was 50 years. It's not its complete lifespan. That's when it was built, that's how long they were told it would last. I think more of the people I hear complaining is the overcrowding because so-and-so got arrested and the next day, our police department picks him up, takes him down there and he goes out the other door. And the people still feel violated. And they're going, why does the guy that assaulted me gets out because it wasn't real bad? And, it's bad because it's just a revolving door down there. It's not Dean's fault. He can't keep them all in there. There's no room. So
millage is out of the question. We talk about educating the community. And it isn't going to happen in these times. And it's very difficult to find a poster child, like schools can, to sell your millage. I mean, it isn't going to happen. Millage is not the answer. Our jail intervention has done wonders, and that's what we had to do. When we started this thing to see how many people we can keep away from jail, and I think we've been very successful at that. I think, Dean, I heard you say, I've heard a couple other people say, those that are in jail are the ones that need to be there. Can I quote you on that? No, they're the ones that need to be there, and there's probably some more. And my goal is not to put more people behind bars. It's the transition that we talked about. It appalls me that sometimes a 6-month sentence in the county jail turns into a lifetime in jail because of the lack of any type of transition training. Thinking the millage is out and using $30 million as a figure, I want to get down to how are we going to do this? Okay, using 30 million, is that in the neighborhood from the study that we had done?
It's still kind of a moving target at this point.
Yeah.
I really would be hesitant to commit to any specific number, but it's gonna be.
It's gonna be in that neighborhood. We have $8 million put away. What can we do? What can we do to lower the 30 million, reduce that figure, and finance the other $2 million? What are payments on that if we were able to bond? Can we cover that with the revenues that the windmills may bring? Can we cover that? How can we cover that? And I think that's our goal. I've heard nothing new here today, people.
those sound like some good questions for if this one comes up near the top and we decide we're going to move ahead with this project. Those sound like the kind of questions to turn a committee loose on, to research and bring back some solid numbers. What are the alternatives? What are they going to cost? Where can we find the revenue?
And we have to. It's a time bomb.
One more here.
I just want to say one more thing on what Jim said, because the longer we wait, the higher those costs keep going. They aren't going to go down. They're just going to keep climbing every year. So.
I met with a couple of township officials actually today, and because I try to do this all the time, and I've always been done. I even talked to a guard. And I think that the consensus is that they all know we need a new jail desperately. It's a fact. But I think what they're more scared of, and I think they'd actually vote for me. I think Jim is wrong. I think they just don't want us to go to Taj Mahal, and they don't want more beds. They think that we're putting too many drug people in there, and I think they want a better method of keeping people out. But the jail is buildable, I think, and that I'm the worst one to come up there. But I think, but we can't build something that the people can't see us trying to maintain what we have, you know, and not go overboard here. I think it is something that can be done.
All right, let's, one more and then we'll.
I'm just going to say a few words. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind, I think even the citizens of this community, that there is a need for another jail. The problem is, what is it going to cost them in these hard economic times? That's why Jim's talking about the millage might be possibly out of the question. There's also the question of operation of the jail. It's not just building the jail, but what is it going to cost? Increase in security, you know, in bodies and everything else. All the stuff has to be worked out and have a more positive plan ahead. And I think at that point, and maybe within a year or two, when the economics change in the state, we might be able to pull that off. Maybe we can start now planning it and then down the line. But safety is another issue that it's in everybody's mind. We're talking about rehabilitation and everything else. About all the 170,000 people out there that want to make sure that they're safe in their homes and everything else. So there's certain people that belong in jail, and there's certain people that can be made to be good citizens in this community. I just read in the paper about the guy that high chased the drunk, the highest drunken person and everything else. Would I have that guy out there when my kids are driving, going to work or going to school? Certainly not. But the person that just made a mistake once and is somebody that can be educated to be a better citizen in this community and offer something back in the community, I'm for it. They don't belong in jail. But certain people do belong, and unfortunately, we are in different times than we were 10, 15 years ago.
But everybody is going to leave the jail.
At some
Pretty
point.
much, yeah.
Yes.
So you still have to have some way to say, how are we going to
Oh, definitely,
manage
definitely.
it afterward?
Well, I don't know, Scott, you got, what were the felony numbers this morning?
I didn't get it. I just.
The other side.
I would refer to you.
You looked right at me, Pete.
You'll be Commissioner Plummer.
Thank you.
I don't know the exact numbers from this morning, but typically we have around 300 people in on felonies.
I felt 300 in a 400-bed jail, local jail. I had 300 felons. Of those 300 felons, we probably got 24 murder, attempted murder at this point. Total, I mean.
A little less than that, but
yeah.
How many?
I mean, probably close to 24. Maybe a few less, but I mean, we have some serious offenders in that jail. And so this notion that we're locking the wrong people up, there are no first-time offenders in that jail. Okay, the people that come in on some type of first-time offense, unless it's a homicide, a felony level first-time offense. Let me clarify that. The people that come in on a drunk driving first offense, a possession of marijuana first offense, a domestic violence first offense, they're in and they're out within 24, 48 hours. Guaranteed. There are no friend of the court able to pay.
Oh, we don't even bother anymore.
There are no folks in there. There's a misconception that, you know, we're holding these people and we're letting the bad people go. When we let the people go, we let the least of the worst. And it is agonizing when I look at that list of people that I have to make a decision to take to the judge to try and get people out. Because I'm thinking, if this guy is let out early and goes and does something really bad, not that it's a given that they're going to do that, but it's a black eye, particularly for the sheriff, but it's a black eye for the entire county.
Can I?
And you are, you are not alone. I have heard that from law enforcement and judges all over the state.
But that's part of that education process. I would be happy to show anyone the list of offenses that are in our county jail. And I would dare anyone to pick one up that says, this person really doesn't belong in jail. No?
Jail does a lot of things, and one thing that hasn't been mentioned, you just kind of put your finger on, jail's a deterrent. There are a lot of true, and I use this word very, very carefully, true deadbeat parents in this county who do not pay their child support and know they get to skate. I promise you. And that goes to the quality of life in the county and the image in the county. We frankly barely do show causes anymore. I'm thinking of just dumping bench warrants altogether because it is pointless. And if you don't think that's not known in the community, think again.
I know you want to get off the subject, And everybody here knows I
This
do
is
not.
obviously important. That's why it came up at the start of the list, and that's why we're spending, I figured we had to cover these at an average of about 5 minutes each.
Yeah.
But that's why we're spending the time. I know this is.
And I don't want to waste our time. And having said that, we talk about, well, let's get a committee to study how we're doing this and study what our needs are. That's been done by professional jail planners. It's here. The numbers are here. Does it probably need some update? Maybe. But let's familiarize ourselves with, I think we spent a good amount of money getting that assessment done. It's all here. Let's don't start over. Let's move forward.
One more.
I just want to emphasize that. We've been wrestling with this for 8.5, 9 years, and we have just let our resolve go down the drain. And this leads us into the next item. We need to sit down and make a decision that we're going to go ahead with the jail. We need to plan it. We need to do it specifically. We need to get the numbers together. And then we need to go out and we need to educate ourselves as to what we need to do, and we need to educate the public. And that's an obligation that we have as county commissioners. We can't continue to simply put it off, that somehow or other we're going to form another committee. We have the facts, we just need to marshal them, we need to get them together, and we need to get out, make a decision that we're going to go out, and how we're going to approach the public, and approach them, and get it done.
And start by educating my staff and the staff at CMH and the various impacts that it has on us, because it does.
That's my point. The next part is education, communication, and marketing and media and all of that.
That's it.
And the only thing I would add to that is the education. I think sometimes we think that we need to educate because of a millage. We need to educate regardless of how this facility is funded.
Exactly.
Because the community needs to be educated as to what will have and what will do for the community. In regards to the committee, if this is one of the top, which in 2010 it was not one of the top strategic planning issues, and that's why a committee was not formed. I don't want you all to think that because we form a committee, if it's one of the top items, there will be a committee, and a committee will move this forward, just like we moved everything forward 2 years ago. We do need eyes on this. The sheriff and I have been working on this for the last 2.5 years since I've been here. But once we get the direction from the commission and from everyone here, we will continue to work. We will just be working in a more accelerated mode because that's what the strategic plan directed us to do.
Yeah, and just to try and temper some of the frustration I sense, and believe me, there's no one more frustrated than me. There are a lot of things that have taken place. We have a very effective CMH diversion program in the jail. It's paid off big time. The prosecutor's office just started a retail fraud diversion program that I think is going to pay off the courts. It's too early to get a real sense of it, but I think it's something that we're going to be glad we did. We have a group of community members, service providers that we call, for lack of a better term, the Interagency Jail Diversion Committee. We meet every 2 months and talk about resources that they can bring to jail and how we connect people in the jail with those resources. And it's kind of a de facto re-entry process that we're trying to get off the ground. Of course, it takes funding and time and talent to do all that, but we are in the process of pulling all that stuff together. So there's things that are happening. We haven't particularly gone real public with all this stuff because then sometimes misinformation gets out there and it creates more of a challenge to get these things done. We've looked at sites for a potential new jail. We all know that the Muskegon prison closed down here 2 years ago, I guess, Muskegon Correctional Facility. There was a real push by community citizens and people internally to go out and get that prison and see if we can turn it into a jail. And we want to proceed real cautiously on that because you can't just turn a prison into a jail. It just doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. People seem to think that they're the same thing. They are not. Prisons and jails are not the same type of institution. So we've done that. We looked at that. We've had this study done. We're all in a sitting boat. And one of the things we did talk about yesterday in our group too is, we're directly affected, particularly at the sheriff and court level, about what takes place at the state level. And trying to figure out what's going on in the state is sometimes, it's a moving target. And so we're impacted by the decisions that the state makes in order to move forward with the plans for the prison site. I don't think that's going to come to fruition, unfortunately, because of some decisions that were made at the state level by the Department of Corrections. I'll know formally here in short order whether we can pursue the prison site or if we got to look at an alternative. But there are things happening. We just haven't. And maybe that's a fault of mine that we just haven't made a lot of stuff real public. But you don't want to go public too soon with a lot of this stuff because then the expectations are beyond control, beyond management. So we have done a lot of stuff in the past several years in regards to jail programming, trying different things, looking at different things. The fact of the matter remains, and I will say this time and time again, that the jail is just not adequate for what this county has become in terms of the size of the county and the activity that we deal with.
At the risk of prolonging the discussion, it strikes me that there are some real parallels to the IT issue. We can only use that computer so long. We get to a point where we not only have to replace the hardware, but the entire operating system, by making some changes, allows us to be tremendously more effective in what we're doing. And the things that I hear from time to time about new jails and the structure and the ability to operate them more cheaply is out there.
Well, yeah, technology now could be a potential advantage in terms of operating costs and design. Quite honestly, there are new jail designs that are out there that are much more efficient and better operated and less costly than what we have.
One more.
One more, I'm sorry.
Let's see if you can give us as good a segue into the next one as what we've had.
That's the message we need to get, not that we need a new jail. We need to move forward, upgrade, and help the people. But a capital investment is paid for with bonds or millage. So the group that makes that message lets the common folks, the communication again, to the people. That's where we are. That's what we need to do. Put it on a level they understand and move ahead with it. And you're right, John. We were going through the sky is falling for a few years. It's now time to go ahead.
Good segue. The second topic, again, a lot of discussion in a lot of groups: education, communication, marketing, use of media, primarily directed from county operations to citizens. There's someplace else here we get to the internal communication. And there was one kind of unique comment in one of the groups about department apps. And the concept there, I think, had to do with smartphones, iPads, Facebook, just that broad range of electronic communication that's out there that most counties aren't really tapping into. So I wanted to make sure we pointed that out. With that, the floor is yours.
Cool. Well, the sheriff yesterday made a suggestion, and I think it's very appropriate, that we need to do a better job of communicating with the public as to what the county's function is, what it's supposed to do, what it's not supposed to do, and what it has the potential to do. And we need to get that message out. We need a permanent PR person for the county. If you look at the number of departments and the number of people that are represented around here, there isn't any cohesive message that we all can get out to everyone. And I think we need to somehow sit down and put together a media campaign or a media blitz. And again, this is Dean's idea. Well, it's all your fault. It's all your fault. What the county does, of which the jail is simply, and all of these other things are simply a part. And the county government is effective. A lot of the townships are more effective in getting their message out than we are. And we're the comprehensive, at least in theory, comprehensive governing unit for the county.
Well, one of the things that our team discussed was a county media clearinghouse where the media members could go to find information from all of the different departments of the county about initiatives that are underway within the county, other news from the county, where we would be able to have one central place for all that information. And you're absolutely right. I mean, one person leading up the charge to gather all this information would certainly help. So, I mean, that's one idea that could be implemented fairly quickly on the county website, a media clearinghouse.
I have one over here, and then I've got a couple in the back, and then
Well, I just wanted to say, as somebody who pretty much crosses all departments of the county, I think one place we need to start with all of this is educating our employees that the county is a great place. And I probably get more questions from employees than most of the people in this room. And there are a lot of great things going on in the jail, and I'm fortunate enough to hear about them because of the office that I work in. But that's not true with a lot of the employees. They don't know. And one thing that has really helped is Bonnie's quarterly meetings. But I say you have 1,200 ambassadors.
Bingo.
And you need to learn how to use them. The majority of your employees are very supportive of the county and are a great tool to educate the community, but you need to educate them first.
Yeah, that we came up. Yeah. Right.
I agree with everything, and I agree maybe a central place might be good, but also as department heads, we gotta do our job to educate not just our employees, but the people that come to our offices.
Yes.
I would give kudos to the clerk because she has done a good job doing that in her own department, and I try as much as I can to educate what the treasurer's office does and what it's all about. I can tell you that unless you involve a little bit, you don't know at least 70% of what the county does out there. And the sooner we can get the people to understand that, maybe they can understand why the need of the jail is more or any other needs we might have. So although we need a central place in order to build this up, we also need to do our jobs as department heads to educate the people in our office and outside also.
Martin, you had a comment?
Only that one of the discussions we had was that I guess it's something called Muskegon something first. I don't know.
Muskegon area first.
Is that an arm of county government? I don't think it is.
No.
We don't even have that one central repository of all things Muskegon County. Bonnie mentioned that there's even a brochure. If someone wants a brochure about Muskegon County, there's one. That's a simple thing to develop, you would think. But that would away.
We had it, but it went away.
It went away. Well, it may be something that we should have again, where we do have a office of communications for the county, so that because I'm a newbie. I just got here in November, and I mean, we used to play Muskegon in football and basketball, but I didn't know anything about Muskegon.
We win?
Not often. We beat you. At least in my years.
Weren't you remember?
That was a while.
I do want to thank the treasurer for his
Flint's
kudos,
tough.
because I think that all the employees in the county clerk's offices work very hard, because we do get a lot of people asking a lot of questions. But the other thing I would say is, when I picked up the Muskegon Chronicle and I saw the letter to the editor from Bob Lukens talking about Muskegon and everything, and I saw the article talking about the visitor's guide being made available, and it had 4 seasons, and I knew that I had 21 city and township clerks that were meeting on Tuesday at noon Tuesday morning, I said to Jeannie, call over there, get me 25 directories, put this two-sided sheet together of his comments, because we have to educate them. If I just took them, their directories, and said to these city and township clerks, they'd just sit there with them, and the message that was given to them on Tuesday was, here's the article that our new director wrote about Muskegon County. Here's the article that talks about this 4-season directory. Here's your directory. We are so pleased that you are ambassadors every day in your cities and your townships to help this county. And I know that Tony works very hard with the city and township treasurers. And I think all of us have to keep doing that, because I know the board is going to put money in the budget, give us this person full-time, but it's going to be a while before that can happen. And meanwhile, we can all still be and have a responsibility to keep educating and informing in our own way.
Even if you get the money to have that full-time person that coordinates the effort, I'm thinking then it's going to be even more important for everybody else to continue to be those cheerleaders on a regular basis and provide information. So you're just kind of warming up to when you get there.
I'm ready.
Other comments?
Well, there is a thing called 211 that people can get information. We just got to give them more. I know I get it in my office every year, an update that I send to them about what's happening within my office structure. If we all do the same thing, people use 211 a lot, and they want a specific question and answer about county government, they might even be able to get it from them if they have the information.
Ready to move on to the third one? This came up in a couple of groups, the whole discussion of consolidation of services.
A lot of discussion.
Yeah, I think it has to continuously be looked at. I think you're talking internally, externally, probably both.
I think there was both, and I don't think we really broke it out as a separate. Yeah, I think that encompasses both.
I think it's something that we have an obligation as a part, as representatives of the public, to always review our services internally, and also how we can take our services that we render internally and make them continuously available to the broader people and the rest of the community in the county. One of the things that has happened is that the 5 townships on the north side have entered into a joint planning agreement, and it seems to be effective. I know Scott Plummer has mentioned the possibility on a number of occasions of trying to have a single code for inspections and a single inspection service that would serve all of the other municipalities. I've had conversations with police in the area saying, why don't we consolidate the police services? And I don't want to put Dean on the spot again, but
Wasn't it his suggestion?
The suggestion has been made that perhaps we ought to have somehow or other a countywide police force operated by the sheriff's department. There are all kinds of possibilities, and I'm not suggesting that we need to turn around and adopt these.
Eric?
But I am suggesting that we.
That was not my suggestion.
I am suggesting that we need to look at these things and keep these things in mind. Heath Kaplan put a circle up yesterday. There are services that are being developed with the IT currently that can be made available through 911, as well as the city of Muskegon and the county, where there are shared services, shared information, all of which would make everyone more efficient and build a better jail.
I threw that chart away, but the one that keeps bringing yesterday was dispatch in the city and the county, right?
No, the county's at the top.
Whichever.
County's at the top.
Whichever. And there's sufficient overlap in those systems to be able to back each other up. I think if you want to add more to that.
Sounds like that's right.
Yes. I think that we would be more successful in the consolidation of services, but we must remove that distrust that's out there, because we've seen it in the water agreement that was presented to the city of Muskegon Heights from Muskegon. It was just real crazy. And then it gets turned down, and then people don't want to discuss it anymore. But this is where we've got to educate the public to the benefits for everybody concerned if we indeed want this to be successful.
You're absolutely right. You know, it's kind of like buying a car, I think, the way we approach some of those efforts some days. And I go in and you know, let's say Bonnie's the salesperson and I'm buying. She wants the biggest price and I want the lowest price. And that's where we both start, and we kind of haggle our way to the middle. And it seems that any kind of a consolidation is more effective to build if we can get out of that kind of a mentality and we sit down and talk about how we're going to do it together rather than starting with what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me later. Anyway, I got here.
One thing we touched on briefly was the consolidation of services. I mean, I think everybody kind of goes, okay, who's going away? That there are different ways to achieve it. And one way to achieve it, and one thing we're hoping to use this new ECM project to do, is with better information flows, where information flows freely, where data is captured perhaps in one place, goes to many different places, all of whom need it, so that in terms of the services you deliver, you're all operating off the same information base. It's valid information, it's accurate information, and that in and of itself is a kind of electronic consolidation.
And that level of consolidation may be the most effective anyway,
Yeah.
without going all the way to the structural consolidation. Yeah.
Structural, that was the word I was looking for.
Going back to, I think the word you were looking for is what Bonnie came up with. It's any more of a collaboration. That doesn't scare the municipality so much, but by doing so, you know, like John said, I'm interested in inspections. I believe, I say on the North Central Joint Planning Commission, we should have a countywide planning. We should have countywide assessing, where everything was equal per se for the whole county. You wouldn't have all these variables in it. And I think you'd save money that way.
I apologize, somebody corrected me on that yesterday. We put collaboration in instead of consolidation.
I think even different than it's equal for everybody in different townships. It's not that we want equal in every township. We want best practices. We want what is best for our citizens, and we want county government who has looked outside to see what other people have done and what's determined to be a best practice. And that has, to me, a more objective standard. And it's not you're going to do where you are today and best practice tomorrow, but you've got a plan of steps to get there. Because that best practice is going to continue to move because things continue to evolve. But I think everyone needs to start talking about not what's equal for all of our citizens, what's best for our citizens. Because that's possible here.
Last comments on that one? We'll move on.
I think the one thing we have to be aware of is not everybody agrees on everything that's being said. I have a commissioner here that just whispered to me, you're never going to convince me on this one. And I do think that's important, that while we're all sitting here, it doesn't mean that everybody agrees or supports or that we're all unified in how we're going to leave here.
That's an excellent point. With county commissions with 5 members, that's true. We're never going to all agree. And we have to really be careful to get out of that adversarial. That's the word I was thinking of before.
Wow.
Get out of that adversarial mentality and at least recognize that we are, even though we come from some very different backgrounds, some very different understandings, some very different biases about what's the best way to do it, that ultimately we're working together for the citizens of Muskegon County. Incentives to save costs. Help me on that. One of the groups talked about that, and I think it had something to do with if my department owed back $20,000 at the end of the year, maybe I get to keep some of it in my department or something like that.
All right, it was me.
Okay.
And at least there was a solid management theory out there at one point supporting this. That people in departments respond to incentives. And I don't want to say this in a selfish way, that's the word I want. But is there something to be said that if departments set goals and they achieve those goals, and let's say the department has a project it wants to do that's going to cost $25,000, and each year it's say okay, that's good, those are numbers, $16,000. Oh, it comes in $16,000 under budget. Is there anything to be said for allowing that department to pigeonhole some of that money so it can apply it at some point to the project that it wants to implement? And it's a question.
I have heard of some local units who have done that successfully.
Yeah, I know I've read about it. Did I get it right? I mean, is that basically the...
And I think her point is well taken, because it gives the incentive to the employees of what's in it for me and how can we keep, and we talked a lot about how we get our employees to be partners with us on the objectives that we need to meet and go forward. And I know that sometimes the grumbling from some of them are, we saved money and yet the departments that overspent their budgets get rewarded because, so why should we even bother to have, so I think the point she's making is so well taken, and it's one that we don't give enough thought to.
And I think one of the other advantages, and it was a while since I've looked at this material, one of the other advantages is it provides staff and employees with a sense of self-governance, if you will, a sense that they have some control over their work lives. If they want to spend the money on something that enhances their